This video explains the difference between single measure and repeated measure analysis. The data is taken from the book of Andy Field and is shown here. So there's two conditions. Subjects were either shown the picture of a spider or a real spider, and the measurement is a measurement of anxiety. The file is an example of a CSV, separated value file, although the separation is actually made to a tab character rather than to a comma. ILLMO offers plenty of options for reading CSV files. So we're first going to assume that the data in two columns are actually generated by different subjects, which would mean that we would do what is called a single measure analysis, which is similar to what we have done up to now. So we open a CSV file, and we know that the field separator is a tab. So the file is and it's called spider white. So there's two conditions, and the first question is whether the measurements for different conditions are in separate columns, which is indeed the case because there are two conditions, the picture and the real. So we say answer yes. So we select all conditions since there are only two. Notice that on the left we get an extensive explanation of how to read CSV files, how to specify the different required inputs. And then the question is whether the data should be treated as discrete or not. So in this case we just interpret the data as continuous. So this is the result we've often seen. The stepwise curves are the histograms in both cases, and the drawn curves are the approximated distributions. So this is a single measure analysis, means that for each condition we have a histogram and we do what we've done up to now. For instance, we can look at the difference between the two averages and conclude that they're not significantly different since 0 is within the confidence interval. So we could also look at the difference effect if we're more interested. So this is the difference itself. We can look at the difference effect. Both cases 0 is within the interval, so there's no significant difference, which we could also confirm by doing a traditional test, like for instance a t-test with equal variance. Also shows that the t-value is smaller than the threshold value. So nothing special there. Now in a repeated measure analysis, we actually would know, for instance, that the measurements were not done for the different conditions by different subjects, but by the same subject. So the same subject was exposed to either a picture or a real spider, and the anxiety was measured. In that sense, it makes more sense not so much to look at the absolute values, but rather to see if the anxiety increases or decreases, so rather look at differences in scores. This is what were called comparisons, and ILLMO supports this option by saying it can also model data as comparison data. Again, so we read the same file, but now slightly differently. So we select the same file. They're still in different columns. So now we do comparison. Select all. And we generate, so there's one extra option. So we can generate pairs of data. So rather than the original data, we take the differences from. Again, we consider the data as continuous. So now we have two conditions, but we only have one comparison. So we have one histogram, which is actually the differences in values between the two conditions. Also note that where up to now we've been looked at scaled attributes, we now are in a different part of the interface of ILLMO where we're analyzing pairwise comparisons. In this case, if we wanted to know whether these two, whether this average difference is significantly different from 0, we would look at the average itself and take the likelihood profile from it. And we now see that the difference is significantly, so because 0 is now outside of the confidence interval. The result will be similar whether we take the difference or the difference effect. Doesn't matter. We just get either for the difference or for the difference effect. We get that 0 is outside. So we conclude that if the data is analyzed as repeated measures, so there's actually a significant shift in anxiety, so the anxiety value actually goes up, while a single measure analysis shows a different result.